Because who said to be a woman you need a vagina, or who said to be a man you need a penis? No, you don't. You don't. You know, it's who you are. It's how you feel, how you express yourself, and that's adequate enough. But it's just our society has set off these toxic standards that makes it so hard to meet, and as a result, we are suffering the detrimental effects.
Lockdowns had me scrolling TikTok a little bit more than I would like to admit, but it did lead me to finding this week's guest. Kissy is a black trans woman, and she uses the app to educate people on the way that black trans women are assaulted and murdered at a disproportionate rate globally. Kissy is also extremely fabulous and super positive, so I'm really excited to meet her, so I'm going to stop going on and just jump onto this call. So I guess you just came up in my TikTok For You page, and I was like, this chick is amazing, like such...
Oh my God.
So I'm really excited to be chatting.
Well, that makes me happy, warms my heart. Thank you. That's very kind of you to say.
No worries, of course. On TikTok, you only see 60 seconds of someone. So I'd love to start off by just like hearing a little bit more about you, where you're from, what you do when you're not on TikTok.
Of course. I was born in Tanzania, and then I got adopted by my white dad. I work as a care aide. I was a nursing student, but I'm just like taking a break right now. I don't even know if I'm gonna go back or not, but for the time being, I'm just like, it's mostly just about growth and trying to just kind of see where things go. I started my account just for fun, laughs and giggles, just to have like, all of this, whatever, just to have a great time. But then, there was, all these issues about transgender women being murdered and killed and all of that. Transgender people, especially transgender women of color, have always been highly persecuted. And this is not just like, in the US, but, globally as well. And it's a devastating problem, really. And the saddest part is that, not very many people speak up about this. It's only trans people who speak up about this, but that's not enough, because our voices cannot be heard, because we're literally being shut down. And what we need is voices from other people. And it does not mean that we cannot stand up and speak up for ourselves, but we need backup from other people as well. We cannot just ignore it or stop it or change it, because this is our reality. It's not that something that, we just do it and then it's like, oh, okay, well, I'm not trans anymore. I don't care, I'll just ignore that. We can't, we can't. We have to keep persevere. We have to try and keep moving forward and fight it, and just for our own existence. And you talked about how can people help. I always say a very convenient way to actually help with these transgender issues, even any LGBTQ plus related issues, is that be open-minded and always be open to learning. Because truth is, Kirsty, I find women attractive. I find men attractive, and you know what? I'm also attracted to people just by the way they are, in the heart. Because my past relationships that I've had, romantic connections, that is I would like to call them, were actually mostly just cis straight males, And yes, and I think I have more of an attraction towards that, but I also could date or marry someone who does not fit within that realm, and I'll be absolutely happy, as long as they have the qualities that they're good, they're genuine, they're kind, caring, giving, forgiving, loving. Those are the traits that I really do admire in people. Most straight men. So here's the thing: we call them. There's what we call chasers within the transgender community. I don't know if you're familiar with the term, but basically it means men who'd only date transgender women. And as transgender women, we are constantly being fetishized.
Yeah.
Okay. from porn sites to like daily lives. Because I remember even when I first came out as a transgender woman, that was like during my teens, my later teens, like, when I was about 18 going into 19, I was curious, I wanted to find, when you finally find yourself and you have that energy, you have that passion, you just like, this is who I am, you're determined, you're strong. And I wanted to, I was like, nobody's going to knock me down. I want to find somebody to love me. I had so much love to give, and I was ready to receive a lot of love from people, intimacy involved, exploring all that stuff. And well, I'll tell you this, it was a roller coaster because truth is, my heart has been broken so many times. I've been fetishized, I've been used. I've had men, there are so many men who are actually, and this is an interesting thing, is that, there are so many cis straight men who actually are attracted to transgender women, but they cannot admit it, because the moment you choose to date a transgender woman, they have this fear of losing privilege. They lose their privilege, they lose their status within the society, because then they're seen as gay, they're seen as not straight enough. I mean, I don't blame men for acting that way, but I blame our society, really. It's everyone's, if everyone to blame. You can just blame one gender and say, okay, this is your problem. But it's also part of their problem, because they also have to take action and try to take the initiative to say that, you know what, I want to learn, I want to move forward, I want to grow, educate me.
It is societal, like you say. It's like this mix of transphobia and homophobia, because it's like transphobia in saying, oh, if you're dating a trans woman, then you're not dating a woman, which is transphobic.
Exactly.
And then that mix with homophobia and being like, well, if you're not a straight man, then you're not as like manly or whatever.
Exactly. I have one of my TikTok videos, I said, cis men who date transgender women should not be celebrated or shamed for it. Mm-hmm. And yeah, that statement can sound a little bit controversial, because it's like, why shouldn't they be celebrated? Well, why do they have to be celebrated? Mm-hmm. Because if they're dating a transgender woman, and they're just dating a woman, why should you celebrate someone for having an attraction over somebody else? What should you do? Well, just look at it as if it's something that, it's normalize it. Yeah. It's something that's, it is what it is. You know what I mean? If let's say maybe I'm involved intimately with someone, I slept with somebody, and then let's say maybe we kissed, we had some oral sex and whatever, but depending on their performance, you know what I mean? If that was good, even though like there wasn't like any let's say maybe there wasn't any penetration, we did not use any toys or any penis involved or whatever. If I liked it, I enjoyed it, I got orgasm, I consider that sex. I do, because because I think sex is something, it's intimately sacred, if you'd like to say it, and perhaps I see sex that way because I'm a transgender woman. So, and most of the time, I feel limited, in terms of like, because most cis straight men, they feel that, to be a woman or to have sex, you need to have a vagina. You know what I mean? But that's not necessary. There are many other ways to have sex, despite having a vagina. Mm-hmm. A vagina does not mean that that's where sex is, or that's where having sex with a real woman, should be. You know what I mean? Like there are many other ways. There's oral, there's anal, there's, there are so many different ways. As a transgender woman, I do not like talking about my genitals or the status of my genitals, because I feel like, many transgender women, that's where our stories seem to end, begin and end. It's always like, what we've done to our bodies surgically. And it always comes to where, between our legs and sometimes our breasts. And is this real? Do you have it? Is it done? Do you still have that pee-pee? Prior to having actually my gender reassignment surgery, I did not enjoy sex. I did not like the idea of sex. The way I actually enjoyed sex was quite different. Okay. I'll just be okay with someone just touching me, having an intimate connection, having that bond. It was okay. Yes, penetration was involved, but it was very painful for me. And then another thing to remember is that, I was molested as a child. Okay. So it took me a while like a really long time to actually just like, get out of my comfort zone, like, out of that trauma, try to just put that whole act behind me and
Mm-hmm.
see sex as something enjoyable. That is why you probably have noticed me saying sex is something to be enjoyed, because like,
Mm-hmm.
I rarely go to enjoy it for a while. It took me a while because of the trauma that happened to me. And I did not even know. And when it happened, I did not even know like that was actually sex. I don't even have words for it because I was 9 years old. It was horrible. It was terrible. Um, but anyway, so, and then after I had my gender assignment surgery, that's when, because it's something I had always wanted for a long time. And that's when things actually changed for me, because then, um, I realized, I have to be in control. I have to be in control of my own body and my own pleasure, because most men, and even prior to my gender assignment surgery, I knew this already and I was aware, and I actually had an encounter with it, is that most cis straight men, they tend to care about themselves, their own needs and their own pleasure. So like after my gender assignment surgery, like I said, I had to take control of my own body, my own pleasure. Um, and in order for me to just actually to be able to enjoy it and say, okay, I have touched the clouds. You know what I mean? What people need to understand is that, the journey, like when it comes like transitioning, the journey, transitioning journey is unique to every transgender person, and not one journey is the same. It's very different and unique. And what I wanted, or what I have pursued, throughout my transitioning journey, is absolutely different from another transgender person. You know what I
Mm-hmm.
mean? So for me, ever since I had my surgery, what's that been like? Honestly, I'll tell you this. I wanted it so bad. And when I had it done, like, the moment when I was able to actually walk and looked myself in the mirror for the first time, it was just this moment of relief. It was beautiful. I just like, it was so much relief. Like I really, I don't know, like it was such, like it felt like as if like, this huge weight, a burden just lifted off of me. And from there on, I started to even like, try to love myself. It's not that I never loved myself. I did prior. I liked myself. I was content with who I am. Sometimes, I always used to say to my friends, well, you got to work with what you have. You know what I mean? And,
Mm-hmm.
you cannot just keep saying, I hate it, I hate, I hate it. But, sometimes just to try and find ways to live with it, because you have it and you cannot get rid of it at that time. And another thing is like, having these surgeries, it's costly, which I don't think it should be really, because like, transgender women literally being, suicide is very high amongst transgender people, especially transgender youth, and most of it being rooted to dysphoria and being unaccepted, being harassed, being abused, all of that. And all of that comes down to what? It's the body image, really. If our society would only like embrace us and love us for whatever our bodies are, whatever we are, we would not be going through this as a people. Even these issues with transgender people going on, people hating on transgender people hating on queer people, if we would not be so focused on this gender binarism, none of this would have happened. Having higher rates of suicide amongst transgender people, transgender youth, that would have not happened, because we would have learned, like, we would have learned to love ourselves, accept, and, just embracing the bodies that we're in. Because who said to be a woman you need a vagina, or who said to be a man you need a penis? No,
Mm-hmm.
you don't.
Mm-hmm.
You don't. It's who you are. It's how you feel, how you express yourself, and that's adequate enough. But
Mm-hmm.
it's just our society has set off these toxic standards that makes it so hard to meet. And as a result, we are suffering the detrimental effects. The impact is just, it's terrible.
Sex is a consensual, intimate interaction that can provide physical, mental, or emotional pleasure or euphoric release.
That's a good one. I was gonna say, like bonding, connection. They already said connection. From
Yeah,
just like, not being basic biological perspective, just like, penetration and whatever. But yeah, no, I like this one. I think it's a perfect definition. I think it's contained and enough by itself.
All right, well, we'll leave it as is.
Of course.
Thank you so much. I'm honestly just so grateful that you have such a really amazing story, and I think you're an incredible role model.
Well, thank you. Well, honestly, I'm very glad that I got to do this with you. And like I said, it'll have a great impact on people. Like, it really will. So
yeah,
like, it's a good project.
Out there. Yeah, thank you so much. That means a lot. Yeah, lovely to meet you, and thank you again.
Yeah, likewise. Okay, bye-bye.
Bye.